Awesome. Hi to the two of you. How are you?
Hey Mary
Good.
Beth, how you going?
So good. Excited to talk about it's like Spider movie spring, and that is horrifying and so exciting for so many different reasons. But Kiah, I want to hear from you. Like, what are you are you particularly terrified of spiders? Is that something that terrifies you?
Yeah, I have like really hardcore uh arachnophobia. So
And
like
you're in
when I see a
Australia, and you
spider,
have the
yeah,
giant huntsman spiders, right?
yeah, they're as big as like basically dinner plates. Like they're massive. So every now and again, I look up. I live in the mountains, which is about an hour and a half out of Sydney. So there's a
Oh
lot of
no.
huntsmen up here. So like more than 4 times a year, I open my curtains and there's like a hand-sized huntsman right in
Oh.
front of me because they sit on the windows, and I open them and I just do the same thing every morning. I just scream like a little old woman, and then I cry.
Alyla, what about you? Similar experiences with spiders?
No, I actually like spiders, quite the contrary. So
Just like
I
the
want,
character.
Really?
yeah, I want to own little jumping spiders. I think they're adorable.
Okay, the TikToks of people who own them and like their little eyes, they kind of look like stuffed animals. And like I'm
They're
kind of obsessed with that.
like then they make little like terrariums. I tried to keep one, but it wasn't eating, so I let it free. But that's okay. I'll keep it another time.
So you really tapped into yourself for Sting, is what you're saying. Like you were, there was no acting here. You were total. Like, would you in fact adopt an alien spider that you found?
I probably would, to be honest. I've adopted little lizards and stuff before, so I guess Kia really wrote it, and I somehow fit it so
It
perfectly.
was fate. It was fate that the two of you came together to work on this.
I couldn't even go near the. We had this giant puppet built by
Yeah.
Weta, by Richard Taylor, and I couldn't even go near it. Like I would start to actually freak out, and like Alyla's just going up to it and hugging it and kissing its mandibles. I'm just like, Jesus, God, what are you doing? Don't go near that thing. She just had no fear, man.
Wait, and Kia, you wrote this too. So, like, where? I mean, obviously, we have arachnophobia, eight-legged freaks are like the staples of arachnid cinema. So, where did you kind of want to make your mark on arachnid horror cinema with this one?
Well, there's not that like there wasn't really a horror film that took a giant spider seriously and turned it into a proper
Yeah.
horror. Like there's Arachnophobia, Eight-Legged Freaks is a comedy. Like Lord of the Rings has a giant spider, and that's terrifying. But that's just like a tiny section of like this huge thing. Then you got the Hobbit, same thing. You got the beautiful sequences in Mirkwood with these horrible spiders and stuff. But again, it's just like it's a sub chapter in a much huger thing. And I wanted to take a giant spider as a creature feature and make it into a serious horror film because nobody had really done that before. It was
Yeah.
amazing. I was looking through films just trying to find one where somebody had actually done it and it had actually gone out to like a wide audience. And I just hadn't seen that anybody had really done it properly, or done it in a way that like I was like, yeah, that's it. So I wanted to kind of take that classic horror template of like a single location, like one family, one monster, which is very much like the standard horror template. Like James Wan's made almost an entire career out of that and making Aquaman. But like, yeah, so The Conjuring and like Insidious and Saw and all that stuff, like it's all pretty much that. And so I wanted to do that with a giant spider and kind of make it as close to the classic kind of, A24 Blumhouse elevated horror sort of genre as I could. And really, that's what we were attempting to do, down here in a small
Cool.
studio in Artarmon in Sydney, recreating Brooklyn on a soundstage.
Cool. Okay, so that was a soundstage. I was curious because like the apartment building feels so good and lived in, which is great because it's an apartment building. So that was a soundstage. That wasn't in an apartment
Yeah,
building
because
it
I wanted
proper.
to kind of have the camera roam like a spider, and I wanted to throw people through walls, and I wanted to be able to, just do all sorts of stuff that people in actual buildings tend to frown on. So yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
with something like this, it's better to just build the stuff. But yeah, they
Cool.
were big builds, man. We had to build a version of every apartment. We had to build all the corridors, all the air conditioning ducts, like the basement, the exterior, front door and stuff, and then have like a storm raging. Like it was a pretty full on build. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, because like we had Evil Dead Rise last year in the apartments, but I feel like you not comparing, but like the scale of your apartment building is so much bigger. So it's very interesting. Like it must have and complicated, like the ducts. Well, and Alyla, you're crawling through ducts at some point. What was that? Like, are you claustrophobic? What was your experience doing all of these stunts and crawling through things? Like, because you're the smallest one of the cast besides the actual baby. So what was that like for you doing all the stunts? To
Yeah,
a degree at least.
yeah, I love stunts. There was one stunt that I didn't do, but all the rest, like, oh my God, it was so much fun. I had just come off Furiosa where I'd done heaps of stunts and I was just happy I could keep the ball rolling on stunts. So
That's so cool. You're in Furiosa. Congrats. That's
Alyla is Furiosa. Alyla plays the young Furiosa. Like she's the title
so
character.
you're just like the coolest person I've met today, for sure. At least today. So you got to
100%.
do so many cool stunts from Furiosa to this, and you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm a badass. I can just roll around and do whatever I want.
That should be your middle name, actually. Alyla Badass Brown, man. She is totally badass. There's not a single stunt that she didn't do laughing.
it's so much fun.
That's so cool. Oh my god, dream job, honestly.
It
But then
was.
yeah, you've done like Wormwood Apocalypse and Necrotronic, and so this while this is still big, it feels much more. It's obviously more contained. What was that like? Was there a shift in mindset for you and like kind of shrinking down, but not really of the film that you're working on? Just because this one does feel smaller doesn't seem like the right word, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
well,
It's more
this is the
grounded,
first single
I guess.
location horror I've done. Yeah, like Wormwood and
Yeah.
a bunch of the other films I've done have been like multiple scenes, multiple locations, a lot of outdoor work. This one's
Yeah.
a building, you know, and it is yeah, it's more like The Raid, where it's just like one building and you
Yeah.
work your way through you work your way through the floors. And because I grew up playing video games, to me that's a classic narrative. Like
Oh,
I grew up
cool.
playing Mario
Okay.
Brothers or King Kong or whatever, and so it's just you go up a level, up a level, up a level, or down a level, and then you make your way to the big bad, which is down in the basement or whatever. So it's a video game mentality. And that's why the raid works so well, because it's a perfect classic video game, you know, like sort of narrative. And so I wanted to try that with a giant spider. But I like contained movies. One of my favorite movies is Alien, and that's just a haunted house movie with a giant Geiger alien in it, you know, that's eating people. And the haunted house is a spaceship. So I wanted to kind of recreate my feeling of watching Alien, but in a sealed New York apartment block, you know. And yeah, so that
Cool.
was the impetus. Yeah.
Sweet. And also I know that the spider is a puppet, but you also worked with a parrot and a dog and a baby. Like, why give
Yeah.
yourself so many different
I
challenges
don't
to
know,
work
man.
with?
I just wrote the film and then I got to set and like the AD and the crew and people are just looking at me going, dude, like, what are you doing to us? Like, you've got a baby, a dog, a cat, a parrot. Um, what are you doing? And you're working with children, you know. But I mean, luckily I had like the most talented, you know, child actor on earth at the time. So that was easy. And then I just lucked out. I had a dog who was like really like one of the easiest actors I've ever worked with. The parrot was a bastard. The cat was a mumpty, horrible. I would never work with a cat again. They're really hard to direct. They just don't do what you say.
They don't. As a cat
Weirdly,
owner,
the
they don't.
cockroaches were really easy to work with.
Wait,
And the
really?
baby was pretty good. We had multiple babies that we worked with, and like half the time that was a doll anyway. I mean, I don't mean
Okay,
to give
cat people
away. I don't mean to give away crap. Oh my god, look at this. We should have used that. Does
cat
that cat
people
do what you
unite.
say, Lila? Because
Yeah, the
the
cat,
cat we used was terrible.
he can sit, he can turn around, he can paw, and he can go on just his two back feet or just squatting on his bum.
What's his name?
Yep.
Pyro.
Okay, we're using high fisting too,
Did you
for
say
sure.
I
Iroh?
think that he deserves it. I want him to be a stage cat.
Iroh, like from Avatar?
Cairo.
Oh,
It's not.
Cairo.
Yeah. Wait,
Got
what's
As
the
it.
in the
other one?
city in Egypt.
Yeah, as in the city in
Yeah.
Egypt.
It's a good
Iroh,
name.
he's the grandpa, he's the Uncle Iroh in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Favorite show of all time. That's it. And then what was it like working with Weta to design the puppet? Because Weta, I mean, obviously god tier creature effects, and getting to work with them
Yeah.
to make the spider must have been so cool. So what was the process like to develop like what the spider looked like, or was it kind of all in their hands and you kind of let them take the wheel?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. That's if you're a comic book fan, it's like getting to work with Superman. Like, I'm like, oh my God, Richard Taylor actually exists. Because I'd seen 8 hours of him doing behind the scenes stuff for Lord of the Rings. So like, I really was like so nervous to meet him, but he's such a lovely guy, you know. And he's got the new, what is more relaxing than the New Zealand accent? You know what I mean? So I jumped into
For
my first
real.
meeting, and he's like, "Hello, Kiah, how you going? We've been wanting to make a giant spider movie for 8 to 9 years now, and I was hoping to do something like this and Sting and Lord of the Rings, but now I can do it and Sting, and we can make a puppet, and it's going to be amazing." And I'm just like going, "Oh my God, like this guy's like the best." And Yeah, it was fantastic. I don't think he'd mind me doing his accent, you know.
I think
I
you did a
can't
really
help.
good.
Anytime I talk about
I
Richard,
spoke to
I
him
have to
one
do a
time,
Richard
and you
Taylor
sounded
impression,
like
you know.
I've interviewed him once, and you sounded just like him actually. So that was actually pretty good.
He's my favorite person on earth to imitate,
He's
because like it's just, you know, the New Zealand accent is such a wonderful thing.
and
Puts
he's
you
just
at
like
ease.
talking about spiders, and it's just the most pleasant
Yeah,
voice. So as a
yeah.
puppet, how many people manned the puppet? Or was there someone in the
Five.
puppet?
I think it was five. I think it was four people on the legs, two on each side of four, and then there was one controlling the butt, shoving it back and forward, and then you had somebody on like the remote control thing, like controlling the dog's mouth that goes up and down and the mandibles.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And like, and it
But
was it
So
like
5 human beings make one spider.
so Alyla, was it
Puppet. That's
like there was
puppet
a
maths.
spider? I know you could see the puppets, but like what was it like acting with the puppet while it was moving at you? I'm just curious, like staring face down with the spider puppet.
yeah, I mean, I think that because it was moving in such a realistic way, I just had a flash, like imagine. I just had a memory in my brain actually, but like because it moves in such a like a smooth spider-like way, it does really feel like there's a massive spider. And um, because if it was moving in, if the puppeteers weren't like making it move in the anatomically correct way for spiders, it wouldn't have worked. But it
Yeah,
felt like it was a spider slowly crawling towards me and stuff. It was really incredible.
that's that is absolutely incredible. So oh, I see you're wearing a Children of the Corn sweatshirt. Are you a horror person?
Yes, no, I'm
Oh, it's the
wait.
new one. Are you? Oh, you're in the new Children.
She's one of the children in the corner. She's in
That
everything,
is
man. Like
so
she's
cool.
done more movies than I have. Like it's so funny. She's such a pro.
But are you? Do you like horror? Do you watch horror movies at all? Like when you're not in them?
Yeah, I do. I normally just get freaked out and imagine the weird, um, the weird horror characters while trying to fall to sleep, but I always end up watching horror films. So um my most favorite horror film that I've watched recently is probably Talk to Me because it was incredible.
I
But
mean, absolutely terrifying for anyone, even not like even the most well-seasoned horror fan. So a
It's
very
funny.
yeah,
My daughter, who's 17, that's her favorite horror film too. I mean, it's an amazing film. She comes out and she goes, "Man, I just watched Talk to Me." She's like, "That's probably the best Australian horror film ever made." And I'm like, "I'm an Australian horror film director." She's like, "No, Dad, come on. Like your stuff's fine, but Talk to Me." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. It is
nothing
insanely
like a
good."
teenager to like really humble your ass. You know what I
Dude,
mean?
they tell the truth, and God bless them.
I love it. Well, thank you to the both of you for chatting with me about Sting. It was so nice to meet the both of you, and I really appreciate your time.
you
Thank you,
too.
Mary Beth.